So in this video, what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about long clubs. This could be applicable for, say, a 6-iron, 5-iron, 4-iron, hybrids, fairway woods, you name it. This is basically what I want you to experiment with the next time you head to the driving range. Now, what needs to happen is, when we start using clubs which are longer, is they are obviously longer in length, so we stand further away, but more importantly, the loft is becoming less. So we need to try and find a way to, should we say, launch the ball still up in the air. Now, there are a couple of basic things which we need to do that. But what I wanted to do in this video is I wanted to talk a little bit more again about our movement and how our movement will have an influence on how the club is delivering the back of the ball to help us launch it. So one of the big things that I'm always looking for with a student is learning how to rotate pretty centrally. Okay, so this means if I put my hands across my shoulders, I want to be able to help a golfer demonstrate a nice rotation in the backswing where the head stays pretty still. They shift the weight pressure in towards that trail leg, and then in the downswing the same, or if you like, a mirror image movement where again we end up doing this type of motion. Now, what I want you to put an emphasis on this time when you're watching me do this move is my right shoulder in the backswing and then my left shoulder in the downswing. So as I swing back, my right shoulder goes up and behind my head, and then as I sort of come down, coming in towards this initial downswing, and then as I come in towards this sort of delivery, see my left shoulder goes up and behind my head. Now, the reason why this is so important is because however my body moves, as I just demonstrated there, is going to move my shoulder, and however my shoulder moves is going to move my arm, or if you like, my hand, and however that moves is going to affect how the delivery of the club is. So like I said, what we need to do when we're hitting longer clubs is we need to find a way to hit more up on the golf ball. Now, the way I want you to experiment with this first and foremost is I want you to focus a lot on your rotational movement, and in particular I really want you to put a lot of emphasis on, as you're coming through, get that feeling of that lead shoulder really moving up and behind your head. See what I'm demonstrating here? So to the point where it really feels like it extends you up and through the ball. See where I am? Up and finished, not down like so. This is not going to give you a good delivery. If I just move solely down on the ball, so similar, if I sort of demonstrate face on, if I just do this, that club's just going to come down way too steep. So it doesn't matter what we do with our basics and things like ball position, that's just not going to work, and we don't want that. What we want is that. See, my shoulder goes up and behind me, and it creates a real sweeping motion on the back of the ball. So the first way you practice this is, as I'm demonstrating, put your hands across your shoulders and just get that feeling of turning that chest towards the target so you really feel that lead shoulder move back and behind your head. Now, with your golf club, you are then going to concentrate on keeping the club centrally, so keep the ball position centrally, keep your head still in the backswing, and then as I sort of come in towards this downswing, I'm going to turn my chest towards the target as I simultaneously let my arms drop. And the idea is, see what I'm doing here? I'm really feeling this pulling action of my chest, and that is creating a nice shallow, do you see, really shallow hitting area. And that basically means I theoretically now could hit this driving iron with the ball in the centre of my stance by keeping my head still and really getting a feeling of pulling up and through, because it's the rotation that's affecting my shoulder which is helping me get that sweeping action. Okay, so that's the first thing that I want you to do. Now, what you would then do, okay, is we are then going to progressively move the golf ball further forward in the stance. Now, one of the reasons why I move the golf ball further forward in the stance is it's going to help us create more of a sweeping action. But what it's also going to do is it's going to close the face, okay? So when we're swinging the club on an arcing motion, obviously the club face is progressively opening and closing. So by having the ball a little bit further forward in my stance helps me theoretically close the face a little bit more. Now, the reason why it's important to think about it like that is what I tend to see in lessons and when people send me swings online is when they're struggling with driver, fairway wood, long irons, what they do is they move the ball forward because they know that's supposed to help them hit up on the ball, but then what they do is they end up sort of either moving off the ball and then moving like this. There's no point moving the ball forward if you're going to end up hitting it like that. What I'm trying to say is practice with the ball in the centre of your stance, okay? Work on a nice centred rotation and then get the feeling of turning your chest. So what I'm doing here, so my shoulder goes up, so it creates a nice sweeping action. So you can create a nice brushing action with your club on the ground, and then And only then you can move the ball further forward. Moving the ball further forward is going to do two things. Yes, it's going to help us launch the ball more up, but what it's also going to do is as we move the ball further forward, the club face is going to be closing, so it's going to help us close that club face. And I think by thinking about it that way seems to help a lot of students that I work with having a different approach to the longer clubs, and it stops that sort of steep downward hitting action, because that's just no good for anyone. So give it a go. Hopefully this video helps lots of you out. I'll speak to you soon.